Hello, I'm Josh Boker. Something Borrowed is the greatest film of all time. And you're watching The Peach Pitch, a music review channel where I review music. Today, we're doing our first video album review. A new album from Black Country New Road, and it's titled For the First Time. Now, some of you may be thinking, Josh, this album's called For the First Time. Are you doing this on purpose? And I'm not. It's just a mere coincidence. Black Country New Road is a 7-piece English band hailing from London who've been around for a few years now, I would say since 2018. They've been really buzzed about recently, especially releasing Track X last year as a single as well. But they've really blown up in a mysterious way, kind of just all of a sudden, it seems like. Kind of reminds me of Black Midi in a way. It felt like all of a sudden to me, where I've just never even heard of them, and then suddenly it's the band that everyone's talking about on the internet. Black Midi was that in 2019, and I would say there are similarities between the two. If you've ever listened to Black Midi, I would say both have this really unique stylistic combination of like post-rock, post-punk, folk, electronic music, experimental rock music, as well as like noise. Kind of just a unique combination of all of those genres, really. So unique that it's hard to compare them to anything else. And Black Country New Road, I would say, is pretty similar to that, where their combinations are really similar in a way to Black Midis, but different too, if that makes sense. I'd say I can't help but compare them to Black Midi just because of that unique combination, but also how they blew up is very similar to how Black Country New Road blew up. All of a sudden, this past February, that's all I'm seeing is people talking about them, and I'm like, who is this band? Just like I was like, who is Black Midi when their debut record Schlagenheim came out in 2019, which is one of the best albums of 2019. If you haven't heard Black Midi's Schlagenheim, it's a fantastic record. Please listen to it. But Black Country New Road's music is different than Black Midi. I would say, for one, they use a lot more horns and jazz elements in their music, and saxophone and woodwinds, as well as backing vocals too. I would say a lot of these elements are pretty different as well. Of course, they have different stylistic shifts and passages and exciting new moments that just come at you like a punch throughout this record. And I would say that is very the case for the First Time, which is the debut album from Black Country New Road, which just came out this past February, I believe. Didn't do my research. This album's all over the place stylistically, each track being a completely different venture from the next. That's what's really so fun and surprising about this album, is that there's just new moments throughout, and you'll find new bits and pieces each time you listen. It's a pretty short album, clocking in at just 40 minutes with 6 songs. But when I say 6 songs, I mean like one of them's 10 minutes, one of them's 8 minutes, some of them are like 5 or 6 minutes. So when I say 6 songs, doesn't really mean much when it comes to the length of these songs and the kind of the patience testing you may need on some of these songs. That just goes to show sort of the patience you might need for like Schlagenheim, for example, which I still keep referring to. The production is pretty fantastic, and the mixing is too. But what's pretty unique about this record is kind of the unsettling vocals and narrations from the lead vocalist Isaac Wood on this record, which gives off a very unsettling and kind of creepy aesthetic. This album definitely has a lot of like creepiness and horror elements to it in the lyrics, but also some elements of love and also a lot of humor and wit on this album too. And I feel like the band actually gets pretty meta on this record as well. Some of the lyrical bits on this record, oftentimes Isaac Wood is like mentioning Black Country, the band itself, or just Black Country, the term. And some of these lyrics are actually pretty pretty funny. I'll just narrate them for you. We have Why Don't You Sing with an English Accent? Well, I guess it's too late to change it now. It's a one-size-fits-all hardcore cyber fetish early noughties zine. She sells matcha shots to pay for printing costs and a PR team. Which is like, who comes up with this stuff? That was on the second track, Athens France, which is actually a really good introduction, even though the introductory track is an instrumental jazz piece. That's post-rock jazz piece that's really sets in the vibes, the dark, sinister vibes you're getting on this record. Athens France sounds like a pretty steady and sort of straightforward post-punk track that's arguably the most straightforward track on the album, aside from track X, which I'll get to later. With its guitar grooves are kind of meditative in a way. I feel like I get a lot of kind of the classic post-rock bands throughout the years. I get elements of Tortoise on this record too. Science Fair is a pretty creepy, interesting track. I would say it's the best song on the album, with its grooves, sort of its different stylistic shifts all throughout the track, with its like highs and lows, and it really has a great climax as well. It's kind of a moody with its tribal rhythmic grooves, as well as this the dark glitchy guitars throughout this track are really cool. Isaac Wood sort of narrates this science fair accident. The track is called Science Fair, if I didn't mention. Either this woman is completely burned from this science fair project. I'm not exactly sure, but that's what it seems like. Pretty horrific, but also funny. It's a breakdown in the middle of the track that goes directly into these solely electronic grooves. Kind of reminds me of, if you ever heard The Catastrophist by Tortoise, if you ever heard Gaze Cap. I could be totally butchering that title, but the electronic grooves on that track really remind me of the kind of looping electronic grooves on this track in a really good way. The next track, Sunglasses, is nearly 10 minutes long. It's kind of patience testing, but it's a really, really great track, and very rewarding once you really just spend the time and listen to it. This proves a point with this record, really. What I'm mentioning a lot of the time, it sounds like it's a very noisy, kind of non-stop record, but really it has a lot of quiet moments too, moments that are really euphoric, cinematic, sort of lush and beautiful in a way too, that kind of evenly balance with the noisy, chaotic rhythms and fast-paced guitar elements of this record, and kind of the noisy, abrasive moments too. It's kind of a nice balance between the two. Track X is the much needed cool down on this record. Brr. It's cold. It's a lovely acoustic ballad that has these really great plucky horns and sax that really pop in and out throughout the track, and really has these great, beautiful background vocals that pop in with strings too. It's really, really cinematic and really is a highlight on this album. And it also has like my favorite line on the record, which is I told you I loved you in front of Black Midi, which is just, it's just great. It's a nice, it kind of makes me smile every time I hear it. At the end of the album, we have Opus, which is definitely an opus. It's an 8-minute closer on the entire record, and it really, really has the best grooves on the album, the best grooves, the best guitar chords, the best hooks on this entire thing. It's absolutely fantastic, and it's really fast-paced and rapid. And it also reminds me of like a satanic Renaissance era block party in a way. If you really have heard like Block Party's debut record, but like super dark, super brooding, and really creepy and nightmarish, then that's what you get on this song. It's an absolute rager, I tell you. And it also kind of sounds like Battles in a way, with the percussion kind of reminding me of John Stenier. Of course, like, no one is John Stenier but John Stenier, but it's really a fast-paced firehouse of a track. I wanted to quickly shout out the album cover on this thing, which is really great and really awesome, because it like features a group of kids or that are kind of just jumping into the unknown of this hill, and they don't know what's over it. You don't know what's over it when you're looking at it, and it kind of reminds me of the music itself, where you really don't know what to expect with each track. What is over that hill? Like, you just don't know. What is the next song going to be like? You just have no idea, and that's something that's really cool about this record. I also wanted to mention the sharp typography. The simplicity of it's really nice and refreshing. And also the shout out to the user on Unsplash. It's badass. I absolutely love that. And Unsplash is a stock-free, royalty-free image site where you find images and photos, and I used to use it all the time for my graphic design work. So I just find that really, really cool and relatable. So I just thought that was a really cool anecdote of the album cover on this record. And that's really the whole record in a nutshell. And pretty much it's a pretty fantastic, surprising album from Black Country New Road, and I really don't know where they're going to go next. It's kind of interesting. It's really interesting to see this band blow up suddenly, just like Black Midi in 2019. And just like I had questions for Black Midi of where they're going to go, I'm curious where these guys are going to go too. For the First Time is a really good debut record from them, and it's produced really well, mixed really well. The overall kinsmanship of all 7 of these members is really great. It's kind of a supergroup of sorts too, when I found out that one half of Jockstrap is on this record too, which is pretty cool. And honestly, this is a really great album. One of my favorites I've heard this year. If I had to rate this out of 10, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. Pretty fantastic record. Can't wait to see what's next for Black Country New Road. And For the First Time is a solid release, and I highly recommend it. Thanks for watching this review. I really appreciate it, and it was really fun to make. From what I've lost in my hairline, I've only grown in my love for music. See you next time. Thank you. Oh yeah. Cheers. Oh, this is freezing cold.